So, hey guys, what's up? My name is T-Space, and welcome back to another episode of Storytime with me. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I've actually put up a video, and to be honest, I haven't really been motivated to do any videos as of late, because one, Battlefield is just kind of meh at the moment. I'm just not enjoying as much time with it as I should. So that's probably one of the main reasons why I'm not doing that. And on top of that, I am kind of in MMO mode, which means that I am really looking forward to this MMO called ArcheAge, and it's really fun, and the beta is coming out on the 14th of August, so my mind is literally just consumed with playing this game. And therefore, I don't want to make any videos about it because I'm pretty sure most of you guys would find it very boring, because I'm just going to be doing personal stuff, as in, like, you know, quests and okay. Anyhow, back on topic. Today I decided to do my entire journey of how I got my driver's license. Now, in America, most teenagers feel that getting their driver's license is like, I guess you could say, kind of like a road of passage, where you get this kind of plastic that symbolizes your freedom. Even more so because, you know, well, we're in America. But anyhow, I'm going to be talking about how I started off at, I think, 15 all the way up until about 15 and a half, and when I actually got my driver's license. So we're going to be talking about the preparation I had to take and then actually doing the driver's test. So when I started off in America, you have to go through a couple of tests, tests and or lessons before you can actually take the driver's test. So when I started off, I had to do a couple of online programs, which, oh my god, they were so stupid, but I had to read through all of it. Because for one, if you didn't read through all of it, like one of my friends did, and you did the test at the end, you would miss a lot of things. I'm not gonna lie, you couldn't, or at least my lessons, you couldn't skip through it and just kind of guess at the last part where, you know, where you take the test online and, you know, expect to get a good grade, because there could be like a word that you missed, a fucking single word, and you get the entire word, or excuse me, you get the entire like question wrong. So I had to like sit through or sift through these, I don't know, 100 pages online just to make sure that I would ace the test. And on top of that, I also had to read a pamphlet that was around maybe, I know 50 pages doesn't sound like much, but at the time I didn't want to read 50 pages during the summer of my sophomore year, okay? I don't think anyone wants to. So I just didn't really have any motivation to do this. I was kind of one of those kids that didn't really get excited over, you know, these road of passages like, oh, getting your first cell phone, or getting your driver's license, or going to the prom. You know, it was just stuff that kind of happened. And, you know, they were cool, but I wasn't overly excited for them to actually happen. So at this point in time when I'm trying to get my driver's license, I'm like, oh my god, this is so much work. Can't I just, I really felt like that. It was annoying. So after I did all these online tests and online readings and stuff like that, I was able to now take lessons with teachers that we had to hire. So I had a total of 2 different teachers. The first guy was kind of weird. Basically, what the lessons were he would drive to my house or something like that, or I'd drive to where, I forgot. I think he actually drove to my house. So I'd drive to my house. No. Yes, okay, so I'm trying to remember. So I would drive to my house, or he would drive to my house. I'd get into his car, and then we'd pretty much drive around, and I would get quote-unquote experience. So more or less, I was just driving him, like I was his personal driver to do whatever errands that he had to do. But the way this guy looked was very, very shady, because we drove to this neighborhood that I've never been to, and then he's like, okay, just stay here. So I stood in the car, he got out, and he talked to some other dude, and he handed him a package, and then came back and told me to drive off. And I was like, am I like gonna get arrested? I didn't say that to him, of course, but, you know, in my mind, I was wondering if I was gonna get arrested, because it looked fucking shady. We were in a very close-knit area, and he drove up to a complex and just handed a package off to someone. I mean, as a 15-year-old kid, you have a creative imagination, or at least I would assume you do. So anyhow, you know, we were driving along, and as it was reaching around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he decided that it was time to drive back to my house and drop me off. So on my way back, we were driving on this very long straightaway strip, and it was pretty much just a straight way to my house, pretty much. And it would more or less take about 20 minutes. So I'd be driving in a straight line for about 20-30 minutes or something like that. So as I'm driving along this straight road, I turned to my right, because in America we drive on our left. So I turn to my right and look at my instructor, and he is passed the fuck out. Like, I don't know what happened. I thought he was awake, like he was talking to me like 2 seconds ago, and then he just passes out. In almost like a fashion like you were drinking too much last night, and you just kind of picked a position, and you just stuck with that position the entire time. So you could use your imagination on what kind of position he was in, but more or less he was just in that position for like 20 minutes. I did not want to wake him up, mainly because if he woke up, I was afraid that he didn't know where he was for a couple seconds, and we could have possibly crashed. Like maybe he woke up and he was going to try to punch me or something. These guys were, I don't know, I did not like this first instructor, so that's why I switched over to another instructor. I physically asked for another instructor to, you know, give me lessons in order to, you know, make my driving experience more, well, enjoyable, I guess you could say. So when I switched over to this other instructor, it was a lot better. He was more or less focused on me driving. It wasn't like I was an errand boy for him, basically just driving around certain areas. He actually taught me how to parallel park, which was extremely important at the time, mainly because parallel parking in America is kind of hard, given that there are certain spots where, actually I think in general, parallel parking is really hard. So he taught me, you know, how to perfectly parallel park, and overall, he taught me once, and I've just retained it for the entirety of my life. It's great how parallel parking is so useful, especially in like cities and stuff like that, where you are trying to find parking spots, and you know, you find a spot but it's in between two cars, and you don't know, like if you don't know how to parallel park, you're kind of screwed in that situation. But anyhow, after him, you know, teaching me this awesome skill, he told me that even in my driving test nowadays, they're probably not going to test me for parallel parking. I'm like, wow, that's cool, but you know, I'm grateful that you taught me this this skill. Now, at the end of this this driving lesson, he told me to drive by KFC because he didn't have lunch. And you know, given that this guy was genuinely nice, and you know, he wanted to, you know, make sure I understood how to drive properly, like, you know, signal here and stuff like that. He actually offered if I wanted to have some, you know, KFC with him. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy my parents' food better than going out to eat, so I had to respectfully decline. But nonetheless, I drove him to KFC, he got his chicken, and then I drove back to my house, and then he drove home. So it was great, but overall, I have to say the experience was kind of flip-flopped. The first teacher was very crazy, and the second teacher was actually kind of awesome. So now that I've accomplished, I guess you could say, the amount of hours that I needed with this driving teacher, I was now eligible to actually take the written test and the driving test for my license. So to be honest, given the time frame between when I was doing the online reading and the booklet reading to the actual test where I had to go to the DMV and actually write down my answers, I think it was like multiple choice or whatever, I kind of forgot a lot of things. But given I was just wanting to get this over with, I kind of just, I don't know, I just like went headstrong into these tests. It took me about, I'd say, 3 tries to get all the answers right, because for some reason, for the DMV test, you can't get like more than 4 answers wrong, and there are like, I don't know, 120 answers, or questions I should say. So if you get 4 of those 120 questions wrong, maybe I'm over exaggerating, but you have to do it over again. So there's the first 2 times I got really close, and I got caught up on these stupid questions. Okay, so let me paint you a picture. So I'm in the DMV, and this, I'd have to say, if you've ever been in DMV, I don't know what they call it everywhere else, but in America it's called the DMV. But you know, when you're in a DMV, it's probably the most depressing place in the world. I know everyone says this, but it's true. Everyone does not like the DMV. It's almost like a given that when you go into the DMV, you're supposed to be sad. It's just gloomy. There's not that much light. The people working there look sad. It just makes you feel bad. I don't understand what it is, but it just makes you feel bad. So I didn't like the atmosphere, and overall maybe that affected my test taking. But nonetheless, there were certain questions on the test that confused the fuck out of me, okay? It just made no sense why this was even a question. So when you, okay, if you guys have never taken your driver's test, you will probably retain 1 question out of the 100 questions that you have to answer. 1 question will stick out from all the other ones that doesn't make any sense. So this was a question for me. The question was, which should not cross a railroad? A bike, a bus, or a truck carrying hazardous waste? And in my eyes, you know, None of them. None of them should cross the railroad track if, you know, the train's coming. I mean, I assumed that's what the question was asking. So, given, if I, you know, okay, and also I thought about the other way, like, well, in general, if you want to cross the railroad, if it's safe, I would imagine everything could cross, right? You know, thinking logically, that's what I was thinking. So I was stuck on this question. I got it wrong twice because it was so stupid. Now, I guess before I even tell you the question, you can like say in the comment section below what answer you might think it is, whether it's A, the bike, B, the bus, or C, the hazardous truck. And I guarantee you, you'll probably get it wrong. But if not, you might be a genius. So the first 2 times, what I did, I was like, okay, maybe a bike isn't allowed to cross the train tracks or something like that. That was wrong. So then I'm like, okay, well, maybe a bus, because, you know, maybe if the bus gets stuck on the train tracks, you know, all the kids inside are going to die. You know, that's pretty bad. So I pressed, you know, I clicked, you know, I checked the bus. That was wrong. So I'm like, okay, I've done A, B. It has to be fucking C. You know what? It was fucking wrong. It was not supposed to be any of them. I misread the entire question because there was one answer that was like, none of them are supposed to do this, and I didn't check it. So I was like, yeah, I guess that's right. So the 4th time, I know I lied. So the 4th time I took the test, I had to check the last answer, which was none of them, and it was apparently right. So these questions were they were worded like wrong. I wouldn't say wrong, but kind of like if you were studying, or I guess you could say practicing to become a lawyer, these would be the questions that you should practice on. You should just go to DMV and ask them for, like, can I get a quiz? You know, I'm trying to get, you know, my law degree, so just give me one. And then you just answer them, because these questions are worded so funny that they just confuse you, and oh god, it was so annoying. So finally, after I took that written test, I was eligible to take the actual driving test. So the area that I had to take the driving test had kind of a reputation. There was a guy there called Scary Larry. Now, Scary Larry was one of the driving teachers, and overall, his, I guess, pass rate was like 5%. Like, if you got him as your driving instructor for your test, you were most likely either gonna fail or you were gonna fail. That's pretty much that was pretty much what it was. In my school, everyone knew who he was. He even made the local newspaper. Like, that was how big his reputation was. So as I drove back to the DMV a couple days after I took my final test, I was nervous. You know, I was wondering if I could go to a different DMV to get my driver's license. And my dad didn't fucking care, to be honest. He just kind of wanted me to get it over with, so, you know, I could drive on my own. Because, to be honest, when I had my permit, which is kind of like where I could drive with an adult, it was getting a little irritating for both me and him. When he was driving, he would always backseat drive for me, and I was just so unconfident in my skills because I couldn't do what I wanted to do. Like, if I was going in a 30 miles an hour speed limit and I went 32, he would flip tables in the car. Like, he would, okay, anyhow. But as I was like waiting in line to, you know, get my driving instructor, I was just praying that I would not get Scary Larry. So I'm like, I would say 2 or 3 cars in line from the actual section where you get your driver's teacher, and I see Scary Larry get into the car with this very perky girl. And she was happy, she was excited, and she was ready to go. So as they drove off, I'm like, you know, I really do hope she does well, you know, and you know, she gets her driver's license. Fucking, she comes back, she gets out of the car and runs straight to her father and starts bawling her eyes out while Scary Larry is just like writing down on a piece of paper. And I'm like, no, she failed. Oh my god. So at the time of my driver's license, there was only 2 instructors. There was Scary Larry and there was this other Asian dude. So Scary Larry was like this. Okay, so I know Hawaiians aren't technically Asians, but I kind of consider them kind of Asian. So just bear with me. So there were only 2 Asian driving instructors, so, you know, I guess you could say all the stereotypical Asian drivers stuff. But anyhow, so there's only 2 instructors, and Scary Larry was one, and there's another guy. So I see the other guy get into the car, and they drive off, and then they come back, and, you know, the guy passes him, and the guy was all happy. He's like jumping up and down. And then there was like this really long pause. I don't know what happened, but there was a very long pause to the point where both of the instructors were inside of the DMV. I guess they were doing paperwork, and it was either me or the person in front of me that was going to get Scary Larry. There's a 50-50 chance, and I was sweating. I was literally sweating in the car because I was, oh my God, I was so nervous. And then when the door opened, I could literally just see the guy in front of me turn to his right to look at the door. And I was just like relieved. Scary Larry took the car right in front of me, and I was like, yes! Fuck yeah! And the guy in front was like so scared. So he drove off with Scary Larry, and the second guy came out and, got into my car. Now, before we drove off, the instructor wanted to make sure that he'd give me like a mini test. So he would start asking me questions about what's in my car, like where's the left signal button, or the whatever, or how do you turn on your windshield wipers, or where's the defrost and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I prepared for this, I understand everything, and I forgot the most simplest of things. I did not know where the fuck what is it? I'm forgetting right now. Oh yeah, it was the defroster. There we go. I didn't know where the defroster was, and that oh my God, I was like sweating so much. I'm like, is that one? And he was like, no. What about that one? I was literally just pointing at things, hoping I'd get it right. And he says, no, it's that one. So he checked off on his piece of paper that I got it wrong. I'm like, fuck, how did I mess up on such a simplistic question? Anyhow, after that, he got in the car and we started driving. So as we were driving along, he would just tell me, turn left, turn right, stop, go forward, blah, blah, blah. Kind of just, he was like my own personal GPS that had, my grade in his hand. But as we were driving, it was actually really funny because he started talking to, I guess, more or less make me a little more comfortable in the car, which was nice and I do appreciate it. But as I was talking and answering his questions, he asked me the most randomest question I could have ever imagined. And that was, do you play CS? And I'm like, do I play CS? And he said, yeah, do you play CS? I had to say no because at the time I think I was playing free-to-play games, and I've never touched CS at that time. And his response was, I swear I've heard your voice before. And I was freaking out. Like, this is before I ever did, YouTube or anything like that. So I was freaking. I'm like, is my voice really that recognizable? Like, I don't understand. It's like, yeah, I play CS a lot, and your voice sounds very familiar to someone who I play with, and I was just wondering if if you played CS. And oh my God, that was probably the most awkward conversation I've ever had. Mainly because, for one, I wasn't sure what this guy was thinking. Two, that was weird. Like, I don't know. I don't think that my voice is very recognizable. I think my voice is very normal? Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not. But nonetheless, this guy recognized my voice from somewhere, even though I've never done anything like this before. But nonetheless, he did, and he started talking to me about CS while we were driving. It was kind of weird. So by the time the test was over, we drove up. He started marking down on the sheet. I asked him, did I pass? And he said, yeah, you did pretty well, except for you stopped a little too close to the line, so he docked me down 2 points. So out of 100 points, I got 98. So I was pretty happy about that. And overall, that's how I got my driver's license. It was very roller coasty kind of feeling here and there, but nonetheless, I was actually really glad that I got my driver's license. And now that I have my driver's license, I don't have to drive with my father anymore, which is great. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up today's episode of Storytime. So I hope you guys did enjoy. But like always, my name is T-Space, and I will catch you guys later.